Now I want to go to the third theory. And the third theory is the idea of a civilizational life cycle. And this is proposed by a German philosopher, scholar named Oswald Spengler. And what he argues is that society, culture, civilization, it's no different from a person. As a person, as a human being, we go through a life cycle. We are born, we grow up, we mature, then we die, right? And there's no way around this. We all have limited life cycles. You can live to 100, you can live to 150, but eventually you'll die. And what Oswald Spengler says is that happens in society as well. And there's nothing anyone can do about this. So let's go over the life cycle for civilization, okay? In the beginning, you are in the village. Then you move to the town. Then you move to the city. Then you develop the megacity. Not all civilizations will go through the cycle, but the successful ones will go through the cycle. Okay? You start off, so the Romans, right? The Qing dynasty. You start off in a village, then if you're successful in the village, you build a town. Then when you're in a town and you're successful, you defeat other towns and you build a city, and you become a megacity. Okay? And what Oswald Spengler says is, at the height of the civilization must now die. So let's go over the theory. Well, in the village, life is pretty simple. People work hard, they are united, they have a collective mentality. Everyone's helping each other. And also, what's really important is lots of babies, right? It's very common for mothers to give birth to 10, 11 kids in a village, right? And the reason why is kids are free labor. So you're incentivized to have as many children as possible. Okay, so this is the framework of a village. But as you go up the civilization ladder, as you mature as a civilization, what happens is you have increased abstraction. Abstraction is just a fancy word for you're removed from reality, okay? So when you're in a village, you understand everything, right? You understand, oh, the food that I eat comes from the seeds I implant, right? But when you're in a city, guess what? Those drinks you're drinking, you have no idea where it comes from, right? The food you're eating, you have no idea where it comes from. It's all abstract to you. It's all removed from reality. So in the village, people are engaged in working hard and in helping each other. But as you move up, people become much more individualistic, right? You're concerned about your own personal pleasure. You're concerned about how do I derive benefit from this, okay? So another way of saying this is, in a village, what keeps people together are emotions and tradition and relationships. But when you move to a megacity, what is it that holds people together? It's money, right? Money is the greatest abstraction. The problem with money is that it means we don't have to ever trust each other. In a village, if you get sick, everyone comes and helps you, right? But in the city, if you get sick, you go to the hospital and pay the doctor. Your neighbors don't have to care. Your family doesn't have to help you, okay? So you become individualized. You become atomized. And in this megacity, what happens is, because you are concerned only about your own individual pleasure, you don't work hard anymore. In fact, what you want to do is you want immigrants to work for you, right? You no longer care about other people. All you care about is yourself. And guess what, guys? You don't want to have any children. And that's why the megacity represents the death of civilization. And what is Beijing? What is Shanghai? What is Washington, D.C.? What is New York? What is Paris? What is London? They're all megacities, okay? And that's why we have these trends. And what Oswald Spengler says is, there's nothing anyone can do about this. It is a natural life cycle, all right? So these are the three major theories I want you guys to remember, okay? Yeah, but what if there's an external threat, okay? An external threat. If there's an external threat, then surely this system, this life cycle can be extended, right? And external threats are examples of, hey, let's say there's an alien invasion. Let's just say China's being attacked by the United States, right? And unfortunately, the answer is, it does not matter. Because once you've reached the point of a megacity, First of all, you're so selfish, you're self-absorbed, you are not aware of external threats. The other issue is you're no longer capable of working together because you don't trust each other. So the external threats factor doesn't really matter. But that's a great question. Thank you for asking, okay? Yes, in theory, oh my God, if aliens come, then humans would unite. No, that's not what would happen, okay? What would happen is certain factions of humans would try to align with the aliens to conquer everyone else. So having gone through these three theories, what I'm going to do is combine them together to create a comprehensive, holistic, broad theory of why societies rise and fall. The problem with theories is they are simplistic and inaccurate and imprecise. So I warn you that this theory has limitations. But for our purposes, what we want to do is have a working framework. And then when we apply this framework to concrete examples, we can better refine this framework, okay? All right, so I warn you that this framework, there are a lot of problems with it, but it is a useful tool for us to analyze society in the past, okay? All right, so I'm going to make generalizations about how society is structured. So at the core of society, the very powerful people, these are certain families, okay? These are the founding families of this nation. And there's not that many of them, maybe 10, maybe 100, okay? But at most 100. So if you go back to the Roman Empire, and the Roman Empire controlled most of Europe, as well as Anatolia, Egypt. It was a huge area, but really there were only about 200 families that controlled the Roman Empire, okay? All right, so how these families express power, how they control power in society is through three mechanisms, okay? Three pillars of power. And these three pillars are finance. Finance, we talked about last class, it's just central banking. Second pillar is religion. Religion is just what people believe, how to control what people believe. Now, the religion of today is science and technology. And the third pillar is intelligence or spies. All right? Now, for the purpose of, to save time, I'm not going to go too deeply into intelligence and religion, but I will in future classes, okay? I just need you to remember that there are three pillars of power at the core of society: finance, intelligence, and religion. And it's their nexus, their combination that allows the elite to control everyone else, okay? So from this nexus, they will control all aspects of society, including schools, including the military, including government, including the media, including culture, including crime, the mafia, okay? Every aspect of society that you can imagine is being controlled in some respect by this nexus of power, okay? Also, you have like corporations, right? And then at the outer edge are the people, okay? The people, because they're so massive, the massive people, they're the ones who generate wealth for society. So this system is designed to create as much energy as possible through the people, okay? Energy. Because the harder the people work, the more wealth is generated in society, all right? So a metaphor that we can use is this. Think of society as a corporation. The people are the workers, right? They're the ones who do the real work. The elite, these families, are the owners. And these people in between, the middle class, are the managers, okay? So again, this is a very simple metaphor, and it's not accurate, but it's useful for analysis, okay? So the families are the owners of the corporation, the people are the workers, the people in between, the managers are the managers. And we call these people the middle class. There have been other names for it in China before in history. We call them the scholar officials, right? Another name for them is something called the professional managerial class, PMC. Also, another name for them is the petty bourgeoisie. Again, you don't need to know these names. For the purpose of simplicity, we will just call them the middle class. Does that make sense? Okay, so having gone through the structure of society, let's talk about what happens when society rises and falls. Okay? When it rises, the dynamic of these three groups, it's very interesting. When it rises, the families who own the nation are happy to let the managers control society. And this is what we call democracy, right? And the managers are always providing feedback to the families and saying, we should treat workers better. If we treat workers better, then they will work harder. And at this point, things are great. The people feel that they have a voice in the system, they're making good money, everyone's really happy. But what happens because of elite overproduction is these families produce too many children who want positions of power. Basically, they want to spend money from the corporation. And now the corporation is in trouble. It's in debt, okay? So at this point, what happens is this. You would think the managers would say to the families, listen guys, we need to be more fair to the people. But what really happens in reality is the managers exploit the people, okay? The managers will now deceive. They will lie to the people. They will commit fraud. They will exploit the people. Why? The reason why is this. What the managers really do is something called rent-seeking behavior. Rent-seeking behavior just means they have a certain power that they want to exploit in order to extract wealth from other people. So for example, the most classic example is you own an apartment in Beijing, right? So you rent it out to someone who needs to live in Beijing and you collect rent. Well, this is true for a lot of people. So if you are a lawyer, you collect rent because only you can work in the court system. So if you want to sue someone, or if you have a contract dispute, you have to go to a lawyer, okay? The lawyer is collecting rent. And that's what the middle class, the professional managerial class do. They are rent seekers. Another way of saying this is, guys, if you go to a company, you know what the workers do, right? You know what the managers do? They really don't do that much. And this is true for the middle class. Like, the managers, the middle class, live very nice lives. And so when the company's in trouble, the managers are like, well, I have a very nice life, I have a very nice job, but I don't really don't do anything, so I'll probably be the first to get fired. So they have to show their worth. They have to prove their worth, and therefore they exploit the workers. Okay? Do you understand? They push the workers harder to generate more wealth. Right? So in the decline phase, this is not really a problem. But what happens over time is the conflict within the elite gets worse and worse. Elite overproduction. And what will eventually happen is they will form into factions that compete against each other for power. And when that happens, then society becomes aligned into factions. The factions will bring in certain elements of the middle class, which will then bring in certain elements of the people. And now what happens is civil war or revolution. And this marks the collapse of society. What's really important for us to remember is this is a natural cycle, and no amount of external threat will change that dynamic. Why? Because it's very common for these factions to align with mercenaries. So there's foreign invasions, not because some guy overseas is like, oh, this society is unstable, I'll come and invade. What happens often is a certain faction invites mercenaries into the nation as part of the power struggle. And then the mercenaries realize, you know what, we can stick this for ourselves. So when you reach the collapse phase, the society is much too insular, much too wrapped with infighting to care about external threats. And that's why if there's an alien invasion, it really wouldn't change anything. Is this clear to you guys? So again, this is the model we're working with to explain the rise and fall of societies. At first, in this system, the elite families are willing to let the managerial class incentivize and motivate the workers to do their best. And you do that through democracy, through openness, through meritocracy, through innovation. But over time, as these elite families have more and more children, and these children are engaged in rent-seeking behavior, they basically want to steal profits from the corporation. The corporation runs into trouble, and the managers are forced to coerce the people, which leads to greater conflict. And eventually, over time, the collapse happens when society breaks up into different factions, which leads to civil war or revolution or war.